From detective to architect, building your movement foundation without breaking your body. You're listening to Your Space Today, the podcast where we decode fatigue, stress, and burnout so you can rise again. Every Tuesday, we explore the hidden connections between your habits, your health, and your happiness, giving you the tools to take back your energy and your life. Hey there, welcome back to Your Space Today. Remember Emma, the 34-year-old marketing professional who tried a beginner boot camp and ended up so sore she couldn't move for 3 days? After 3 failed attempts, she canceled her gym membership and decided exercise just wasn't for her. But her story didn't end there. 6 months later, Emma made a different decision. Not a promise to get fit, something smaller, something smarter. She became an architect, someone who builds structures layer by layer with materials that fit her actual foundation. Today, we're going to show you exactly how she did it. Before we go further, this episode is for educational purposes only. It does not constitute medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The movement progressions we'll discuss are general guidelines and may not be appropriate for all individuals. Full details are in the episode description below. Now, let's build. After her 14-day detective challenge, Emma had data instead of shame. The numbers were stark. 9.5 hours of sitting daily. Fewer than 3 movement breaks, 0 stairs, chronic neck tension, evening sugar cravings, poor sleep. These weren't character flaws, they were biological realities, a body reorganized around stillness. And here was Emma's crucial insight. She wasn't starting at beginner level, she was starting below 0. Let me explain what that means. Imagine a simple fitness scale where 0 represents basic functional capacity, climbing stairs without breathlessness, carrying groceries without strain. Most exercise programs assume you start at 0. But if you've been sitting dominant for months or years, you're likely in negative territory. How far below depends on how long you've been sedentary, your movement history, sleep, stress, nutrition, age. Emma's goal wasn't to immediately reach 0. It was to systematically work up to where beginner classes would actually feel appropriate. Think about it this way. If someone offered you any car you wanted, but you drive it for life, never getting another, would you maintain it regularly? Your body is what it is. You'll have it for the rest of your life. And here's the thing, you don't need a gym. You don't need an hour. A few steps after waking, 1 flight of stairs, arm movements at your desk, a short lunch walk, some exercises while watching TV. That's the foundation. The results might genuinely shock you. Now, here's why the 3-phase system Emma used actually works. This is not a 30-day transformation. It's not a fitness shortcut. It's a gradual biological adaptation process. Your body spent months or years adapting to stillness, shutting down mitochondria, downshifting cardiovascular function, atrophying muscles, disrupting circadian rhythms. You can't reverse those adaptations with willpower. You need time, consistency, and progressive challenge at a level your biology can actually handle. Behavioral research suggests that people who view their limitations as understandable biological consequences rather than personal failures tend to build more sustainable exercise habits. Partly because this perspective supports self-efficacy and reduces shame. Motivation burns out. Small, consistent actions support your body's natural adaptive systems. The principle is simple. Build capacity first, then add intensity. Always. The phases are strictly sequential, but the time you spend in each varies. Some people move through phase 1 in 2 weeks. Others need 2 months. Both are completely normal. The mistake most people make is rushing. They underestimate how deconditioned they are and jump ahead too quickly. This leads to severe soreness, injury risk, and abandonment. The point isn't sprinting through a program. It's building habits that last years. Each phase builds on the last. Be patient with the process. Across all 3 phases, one principle guides your progression. It's called the 20 repetition rule. Start each exercise intending to do 20 reps. If you notice strong burning or intense fatigue, especially if it gets sharper with each rep, stop that exercise for the day. If you can only manage 6 or 8 comfortable reps at first, that's fine. Note your number. Aim to add 1 or 2 more over time. Always stay below the point of strong burning or joint pain. Mild warmth or light fatigue is normal. Severe burning is your cue to back off. That early burn signals your energy systems are near capacity. Pushing through doesn't build strength. It creates DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness. And severe soreness after an overambitious start is the single most common reason people abandon exercise attempts. When 20 reps feel comfortable with no burning, add a second set. Progress to 3 sets of 20 before increasing resistance or moving to the next phase. Phase 1. Waking up your joints and reclaiming movement. You can begin right now, at a very gentle level. If you have medical conditions, significant pain, or any safety concerns, speak with your healthcare provider first. Move to phase 2 when all phase 1 movements feel comfortable at 3 sets of 20 for 1 full week, with no burning or next day soreness. For Emma, the first change wasn't a gym session. It was what happened in the first 15 minutes after waking. Sleep medicine research shows many adults wake with joint stiffness after hours of lying still. Emma's body was essentially gelled. So instead of reaching for her phone, she rolled into a joint warm-up ritual. A simple sequence that wakes the joints, activates the major muscle groups, and restores basic mobility. For the first 3 joint mobility movements, perform only 1 set of 20 repetitions and keep it there, no progression. For the next 3 movements, start with 20 repetitions if you can, and gradually build up to 3 sets of 20. Gentle ankle and wrist circles. Hip circles and shoulder movements. Light spinal twists and neck mobility. Knee to chest pulls for the hip flexors. Soft leg extensions and arm sweeps. And a brief posterior chain activation. Glute squeeze, light back engagement. Just 15 minutes, every morning. Emma worked in a standard office. Desk, chair, elevator, fluorescent lights. Instead of seeing obstacles, she saw a movement laboratory. Stairs became her first experiment. 1 flight up and down when arriving and leaving. She gradually added more over weeks. Every hour, she reset. 20 shoulder rolls, 20 calf raises while standing, or simply shifting from sitting to standing for a few minutes. That calf raise, by the way, isn't arbitrary. It activates the calf muscle pump, which supports blood flow back up from legs that tend to pool during prolonged sitting. Studies suggest this may help reduce venous thrombosis risk associated with stillness. And she found what she called neutral spaces. the kitchenette while waiting for tea, hallways between meetings. Nobody needed to know she was doing toe raises while her water boiled. The walking changes were just as subtle. Park in the farthest spot. Get off public transport one stop early. Take a 10-minute post-lunch walk, including one flight of stairs if possible. These sound trivial, but research shows brief bouts of light movement scattered through the day improve glucose and insulin responses more effectively than one longer session separated by prolonged sitting. Going from almost no activity to some activity yields disproportionately large benefits. For those working from home, the routine shifts a little. The morning 15 minutes stay, but without a commute or office walking, daily activity drops significantly. So 2 walks get added. A morning walk, 15 minutes, to a bakery, around the block, to the nearest green space. This isn't just about movement. Morning light exposure regulates sleep-wake cycles and hormones like cortisol and melatonin. Without stepping outside until evening, your circadian clock drifts, and that means poor sleep, low energy, and difficulty concentrating. An after-work walk, 15 minutes as the sun sets. This supports the natural cortisol drop and prepares the body for evening relaxation. For remote workers, it replaces the commute, a deliberate boundary between work and home. Research shows those clear psychological boundaries reduce burnout and improve both mood and sleep quality. During video off calls, gentle movement becomes possible. Marching in place, a wide stance with slow weight shifts. Standing calf raises, shoulder rolls. These keep circulation active and prevent the muscular stiffness that builds up during long, motionless meetings. One red flag to watch for. If a whole day passes without leaving the apartment, that's a warning sign for both physical and mental health. For older adults, retirement can be either the start of decline or the beginning of rebuilding. The structure here is simple but meaningful. A fixed daily walk, 20 to 30 minutes, to any destination, a bakery, a library, a cafe. This creates routine. It provides purpose, and even brief social exchanges, a conversation with a barista, matter for brain health and emotional well-being. Research shows both physical activity and social participation protect cognitive health and reduce dementia risk. Once a week, a trip somewhere further, a more distant park or cafe reached by public transport. Navigating new places engages motor and cognitive functions simultaneously. Research shows combining physical activity with cognitive demands, route planning, balance adjustments, spatial navigation, preserves brain function better than either alone. And balance practice. Standing on one leg while holding a counter, progressing to unsupported holds. This isn't vanity. Hip fractures are particularly serious in older adults, carrying high mortality rates, major functional decline, and a high likelihood of long-term care placement. Regular walking, balance work, and leg strength training can help reduce fall and fracture risk by supporting muscle function, proprioception, and reaction capacity. Parents with young children face a different challenge: not finding motivation. Finding time. The morning routine stays, but on impossible mornings, strip it down. 20 knee raises and 20 toe raises take under 2 minutes. They still provide essential circulation and joint activation. If a nearby nursery or preschool exists, walk your child there. Both ways if you can. This replaces incidental activity many parents lose during demanding early childhood years. And turn family time into movement time. Start with simple playground warm-ups before you play. Arm circles, knee raises, a few wall push-ups or easy squats, Then shift into play. Kick a ball. Chase each other in short bursts. Quick races, forward, sideways, backward, natural, fun, and surprisingly effective. On weekends, 20-minute family walks structured as intervals. 5 minutes brisk, but comfortable enough to talk. 5 minutes easy. Repeat. Research on interval walking shows significant benefits for cardiovascular health, metabolic function, and endurance. Here's something that often surprises people. Physical activity doesn't just consume energy. At light to moderate intensities, it can actually improve perceived energy and reduce fatigue, especially when it's woven into daily routines rather than added on top. For exhausted parents, the goal isn't perfection. It's a bias toward any extra movement that fits family life. And children learn from what they see. Active parents model movement as something normal and enjoyable, shaping healthier habits well into adolescence and adulthood. Before we move on, a quick summary of Phase 1 warning signs. Stop immediately if you notice burning that persists between repetitions. A heart rate that stays uncomfortably elevated for 2 or more minutes after stopping. Sharp or persistent joint pain. Or dizziness, lightheadedness, or nausea. If any of these happen, pause. Listen to your body. We'll talk more about when to seek professional support later in the episode. Phase 2. Building capacity with resistance. Start only after completing Phase 1 comfortably for at least 1 full week. You'll progress to Phase 3 when upper body exercises with 0.5 kilogram weights, lower body exercises with 1 kilogram weights, hourly workplace movements, and all twice-weekly exercises feel comfortable at 3 sets of 20. For this phase, you'll need a little equipment. A set of 3 resistance bands, light, medium, heavy. Ankle weights, 0.25 and 0.5 kilograms. Adjustable weights are a practical option here, letting you change the load in small steps, from 0.25 kilograms up to 2. And for retirees especially, a foam balance pad for stability training. Now, here's something that genuinely surprises people. In Phase 2, we strengthen before we stretch. And most people's instinct is the opposite. We tend to think we should stretch everything out first. But for people who've spent years sitting, the problem is rarely just tightness. It's also a loss of strength and reduced neuromuscular control. Here's what's actually happening. Lack of movement, poor posture, and accumulated stress cause muscles to become stiff. But this stiffness isn't random. It's your body's protective response. When muscles are weak and untrained, your body compensates by tightening them to stabilize joints. Research shows chronic sitting creates these compensatory patterns throughout the musculoskeletal system. If you aggressively stretch tight but weak muscles without building strength first, you may worsen the problem. The muscles can't support normal loads. Pain often intensifies. Your body tightens muscles to protect structures when it senses instability. Stretch without strengthening first, and you're removing the protective mechanism without addressing the underlying weakness. Once you strengthen and train muscles properly, they can support your body through full ranges of motion. Then, stretching becomes safe and effective. Studies show resistance training improves insulin sensitivity, muscle mass, and functional capacity. By building muscle first, joints gain better active support. The nervous system relearns coordinated movement patterns, and everyday tasks become easier, which reinforces motivation in a way that willpower alone never can. So, Phase 2 in practice. The morning routine extends to 20 minutes. You keep the Phase 1 joint mobility foundation, performing each joint movement only once for 20 repetitions. For the arm and leg exercises, you now add light weights. Upper body starts at 0.25 kilograms. Lower body at 0.5. 20 reps, progressing to 3 sets of 20 before you increase weight. Walking extends to 20 or 30 minutes daily. Experimental studies show that breaking up prolonged sitting with short walking bouts improves post-meal glucose and insulin responses compared with uninterrupted sitting. Aim for 3 sessions of 7 to 10 minutes spread across the day. Start shorter if you need to, even 3 to 5 minutes counts. Use walks for phone calls, errands, mental breaks. The point isn't intensity, it's consistency. Twice a week, a structured 40-minute session. This is where the real rebuilding happens. Glute bridges are the cornerstone. Prolonged sitting essentially turns off your glutes, a phenomenon researchers call gluteal amnesia. When they stop firing properly, your lower back, knees, and hips compensate. And that's where the pain comes from. Alongside glute bridges, back and abdominal work with weights. Wall push-ups. Bird dog exercises. Leg work with resistance bands. Office workers progress from 1 set of 20 hourly movements to 2. Choose 1 spine exercise and 1 leg exercise each hour. Remote workers can add light resistance or swap in band exercises. Working from home offers the freedom to progress without self-consciousness. On weekends, work toward a 40-minute hike on uneven terrain. If that's too much at first, start with 10 to 15 minutes on flat ground and build from there. The other day, 30 minutes of interval walking. For retirees, start lighter. 5 controlled reps per exercise. Marching in place. Standing balance on a foam pad next to the wall for support. These exercises directly reduce fall risk, maintain independence, and improve quality of life. Phase 3: Integration and functional movement. Start only after completing Phase 2 comfortably for at least 1 full week. This is where Emma finally reached that 0 point, the functional baseline where traditional beginner classes would actually be appropriate. Movement stops being something she did, it became how she navigated her world. The morning routine stays at 20 minutes, but the weights increase slightly. 0.75 kilograms for arms, 1.5 for legs. Or add 1 more set of 20, whichever feels right. Never progress to the point of struggle. Wall push-ups continue, with feet stepping gradually farther back as strength builds. Twice a week, the structured session extends to 60 minutes. Previous exercises continue, with weight increasing for abs, back, and legs from 1 kilogram to 2, up to a maximum of 5 kilograms. New exercises join the mix. Chest lift with object pass, strengthening the spinal erectors and upper back, preventing that forward hunched posture. And lunge variations with weights, building single leg strength, balance, and coordination for walking, stairs, stepping over obstacles. The movements you do every day. For women in peri- and postmenopause, and for older adults, this phase carries extra significance. Strength training is one of the most effective non-pharmacological tools for protecting bone density. Regular resistance exercise provides mechanical loading that slows age-related bone loss. High-intensity, well-supervised programs have been shown to improve both bone density and physical function in postmenopausal women with osteopenia or osteoporosis, and may help reduce fall and fracture risk. In practice, this means better balance, stronger muscles around vulnerable joints, greater independence in daily life, and a lower likelihood of disabling fractures. Active living integration in Phase 3 looks like this. Stairs 2 at a time when energy allows. Carrying groceries in 2 smaller bags. Natural resistance training. Standing and marching during TV commercials or phone calls. Calf raises while brushing your teeth or waiting for an elevator. Movement becomes invisible, woven in, effortless. At this point, you can also sign up for beginner sports or fitness classes, if that appeals to you. If group classes aren't your thing, maintain strength exercises twice weekly, plus 2 weekly cardio sessions built around 20-minute interval training. Brisk walking, elliptical, treadmill, rowing machine. Interval-based cardio is extensively studied and produces meaningful improvements in cardiovascular fitness, metabolic health, and cognitive function. On days you attend a class, you can ease up on your usual walking, but on the remaining days, keep your regular movement habits. And don't drop the resistance band and weight work. That's the backbone of your long-term strength and bone health. One more addition at this stage: basic yoga stretches. Your muscles are now strong enough to support full ranges of motion safely, and long-term health depends on 3 components working together: muscle strength, tissue mobility through regular stretching, and respiratory endurance with interval-based cardio. All 3. Not 1 or 2. All 3. A short block of strength work, bands or weights, at least twice a week remains essential. Yoga joins it as a complement, not a replacement. Research on exercise adherence and graded training suggests that when people start slowly and without pressure, they experience fewer setbacks and are far more likely to stick with activity long-term. Those small, early wins build confidence. They make movement feel doable, sustainable, something that belongs in your life, not something imposed on it. Sometimes independent training isn't enough. Professional support becomes essential when you're dealing with persistent joint or back pain, recurring injuries, limited mobility after surgery, balance problems, significant morning stiffness, or a long break from physical activity. In these cases, a medical evaluation or a consultation with a physiotherapist helps clarify what's safe, what needs modification, and what to avoid entirely. If any movement causes pain, pushing through it rarely leads to progress. It often makes things worse. Pain during exercise is a signal to pause and investigate, not to force your way forward. When discomfort appears, the first step is speaking with a doctor to understand the underlying cause. Physiotherapy may also be necessary to restore proper movement patterns and protect the joints. For anyone new to resistance training, investing in a few sessions with a personal trainer or asking a physiotherapist to check your technique can be extremely valuable. It's a short-term investment that prevents unnecessary injuries and accelerates your progress. With the right guidance, movement becomes safer, more efficient, and far more energizing. Now, let's talk about something many people experience but few admit to. Most people feel worse after watching online workout videos, not better. Perfectly lit studios, flawless bodies, coordinated outfits, instructors who look energized after exhausting sessions. Meanwhile, the average person is sweating and struggling in an old t-shirt in a cluttered living room, while the instructor chats effortlessly. That contrast alone can be deeply discouraging. Research on Fitspiration content shows appearance-focused fitness imagery often worsens body image, mood, and self-compassion. It can even reduce the intention to exercise. Studies consistently link appearance-driven motivation to lower adherence and more negative psychological effects compared to health or mood-based motives. It's also worth remembering, Many influencers film during their workday in controlled studio settings. This is their job, not something squeezed in before a commute or after putting kids to bed. Professional lighting, makeup, wardrobe, often personal trainers. What you see is a polished performance, not everyday reality. That's why we've created a downloadable exercise table for you. Sets, repetitions, and short instructions, away from the pressure of perfect bodies and ideal settings. It includes exercise names and categories, brief descriptions of proper form, progression guidelines, adaptations for different life situations, and space to track your progress. Print it, save it on your phone, keep it wherever works. Your workout doesn't need to look like a fitness commercial. It needs to fit your body, your life, and your real circumstances. You'll find the download link in this episode's description. By the end of these 3 phases, whether that takes you 12 weeks or 12 months, you'll have rebuilt the fundamental movement capacity that makes traditional exercise actually accessible and enjoyable. You'll have rediscovered that movement can be a source of energy, not exhaustion. This isn't the end of your movement journey. It's the foundation that makes everything else possible. And if you're feeling a little overwhelmed right now, that's completely normal. But here's what gives me hope. You made it to the end of this episode. That means you're not looking for shortcuts. You're ready to build something that lasts. New episodes every Tuesday. On our website, every episode is accompanied by a detailed article with all the key information we discussed. You can also download free additional materials there, including the exercise progression table we mentioned. All the research we referenced today, every study, every finding, you'll find complete citations and links in this episode's description. We believe in transparency and in giving you the sources so you can explore further if you want to. If today's episode was valuable, share it with a friend, a family member, someone who might be struggling with the same things. Understanding that we're not alone in this and that there are real, science-based explanations for what we're experiencing can be deeply empowering. Next Tuesday, we're exploring a completely new topic. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Until then, take care of yourself. Start with phase 1 this week if you're ready. Just begin. Your future stronger self will thank you. Your Space Today is published every Tuesday at 6 p.m. For detailed information, disclaimers, scientific references, visit the links below this podcast. This podcast is for educational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult with your healthcare provider regarding any health concerns.